So I think Notre Dame is going to beat Penn State and advance to the national championship game. 21-17, that's my score prediction here. Why? When you look at what the Irish have done over the last several months, they are just playing such great complementary football. That doesn't mean all three phases are performing at the same level. But special teams has been an A+, defense has been an A, and the offense, I'd say, has been a B to B-. I think the special teams advantage in this game is squarely in the camp of Notre Dame compared to Penn State. That's not the primary factor, but it is one of my top reasons. The forgotten side of the ball that, by the way, allowed Notre Dame to break open their quarterfinal game against Georgia previously. So that's first reason. The second reason is Jeremiah Love is questionable going into this game. That concerns me. That concerns me. Abdul Carter is questionable going into this game for Penn State. That concerns me. I'll touch on that more in a moment. But Jadarian Price and Riley Leonard combined have been phenomenal this year. Leonard's averaging over 5.5 yards a carry. Price is at 6.5 yards a carry so far this season. And you know that Notre Dame wants to come out and run the ball. So if this gets into a shootout, which I don't think the Notre Dame defense is going to allow to have happen, then the edge goes to Penn State. I trust Drew Aller to throw the ball all over the field to Tyler Warren and the running backs and occasionally a wide receiver more than I trust Riley Leonard to throw the ball to, anyone. Remember, Notre Dame is attempting to become the first national champion since 2009 Alabama to average less than 200 passing yards per game. I do get the sense that that's going to catch up to them eventually, but that's not how they're winning this game. If they take on Ohio State, which I suspect they will, in the national championship game, then you could have the problem. Because I don't know that it matters how good your secondary or defense is. Jeremiah Smith is an alien. Emeka Ibuka is great. And Carnell Tate is one of the better number 3 wide receivers in all of college football. So when you go up against those guys, yeah, you might have to just score a lot of points. And I don't know that Notre Dame is fit to do that. But in this game against Penn State, their offense has absolutely been humming. I mean, it wasn't perfect per se against Boise State. The fumble, I think, really shifted that game. If Drew Aller doesn't fumble that ball and Boise State gets the ball to drive down the field, Penn State could run away with that game. Instead, they didn't. It was tight. It was competitive. This is a Notre Dame defense that has been really good at forcing turnovers. I think they will get at least one in this game. I won't be surprised if it's 2. But Penn State has to find a way to turn this football game into a fireworks show. And Notre Dame wants to make it, what do they call it in the longest yard? The backyard, et cetera, et cetera. When they're just pitching the ball around in the mud. That's what Notre Dame wants to do. They want it to be ugly. They want to muck it up. They want this game to just be a complete and total repeat of what happened in the quarterfinal round against Georgia. Close game at the half, defense makes a play, special teams comes up big, then they run away control, and they lean on the defense in the ground game to run out the clock. So Abdul Carter's absence in this game, quite frankly, would not be felt as significantly to me as the absence of Jeremiah Love. But I do get the sense both teams are capable of overcoming the absence or reduced impact of either one in order to win. The reason I go with Notre Dame is despite absences, and there are several on that side of the ball, that Notre Dame defense is no joke. They're missing guys along the defensive line. I just watched them harass Georgia. And is Georgia's offensive line great? No. I think Penn State's is probably a touch better. But I have watched Notre Dame's defense too many times to fall for the idea that, well, suddenly that's going to catch up to them here. Penn State could put together a couple drives. They could do pretty well. I don't see them suddenly exploding. in this game. The Notre Dame defense, to me, is the reason that the Irish go on to win. I don't love the pun not intended there. I'm not crazy about making this pick, Notre Dame 21-17. I'm not crazy about it with Jeremiah Love's status up in the air. And even if he does play, don't think he's going to be able to be at 100%. I think what Notre Dame will then do is they'll rely even more on Riley Leonard. And you will look at this offense and it might remind you of Jaden Daniels a year ago, who routinely, with the same offense coordinator, Mike Denbrock, he routinely led LSU in rushing yards. I'm pretty sure their leading rusher throughout the course of the season en route to the Heisman Trophy. You might see that a lot. You might see a game plan that resembles what Georgia Tech rolled out time and again this season with Haynes King at quarterback. And it got him dinged up a little bit, but they weren't prolific throwing the ball down the field. But Notre Dame's offense, on the one hand, is one-dimensional in that they're not going to have a consistent vertical passing game. Riley Leonard will have to make some throws and a couple of key spots he'll have to execute. But what Notre Dame's offense, I think, does a good job of, and you'll really see in this game, is they're running the ball, but they're not running it the same way. Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, now with Sharon Moore, they run the ball the same way, and they just have better linemen, scheme, play call, running backs, all of that stuff. Notre Dame can get a little bit shiftier with it, can be a little bit more creative, and incorporate the quarterback run. And I fully expect them to in this game. And defensively for Notre Dame, there is not just one key. Because the key that goes around the most that I hear on plenty of other shows is, got to slow down Tyler Warren, got to slow down. That's the number one key. That's a number one key. Can we call it 1A, 1B for what's important in this game? Because Nick Singleton and Katron Allen are phenomenal. Plenty of attention gets rightfully paid to Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, but Nick Singleton, Katron Allen might be every bit as good as those guys and can take over games, and they spell each other regularly to stay fresh. So if I am Notre Dame scheming up a defensive game plan, yeah, I want to take away 44, but frankly, I'm more concerned with the idea of 13-10 allowing Penn State to be balanced. That's what Andy Kotelnicki's offense has always been when it's at its most dangerous, is they can run the ball and then they can set up play action with all the motion and the creative shifts and take shots down the field. That's how they got Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. They ran the ball incredibly well. Incredibly well. And so when they went play action, Oregon was biting on it, created openings on the back end, and Ohio State was able to exploit that as well. But I think first and foremost, Notre Dame has got to take away 13-10 as best they can. You're not going to contain them entirely and bottle them up. They're too good of players, and Penn State's offensive line is really underrated. They're too good for that. But if Notre Dame cannot allow Penn State to dominate on the ground, if they're just okay, if they can be neutral, if they can work it to, I'm trying to think of a chess term. When you can't, your kings are just battling back and forth. Oh, gosh, my brother's going to kill me for not remembering that term. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about there. They just need to not lose in that matchup, and I think Notre Dame will go on to win the game. 21-17, low-scoring affair. Notre Dame forces at least one turnover. I'll call it 2, and they get the win to go to the national championship game.